Welcome to the Statline podcast. I'm Safal.
And I'm Atlas.
Man, week 3 of the NFL action has just ended. We're getting ready for week 4, and the Statline podcast is here to break it down for everyone. We're going to go through this past week's games, the biggest storylines, and we'll preview some upcoming games. Atlas, how's your week been, man?
It's been really good, man. I'm excited for these upcoming NFL Week 4 games, but happy to be back for Statline Episode 4. How about
For
you,
sure, we
Safal?
we had some big games this past weekend, and we got to talk about it. Let's start off with the Monday night showdown between Baltimore and Detroit. Shall I say a Super Bowl preview? Now, let me not take it that far. Let me not take it that far. But that was a showdown of two great teams, two great rosters, two good head coaches, two quarterbacks that you can trust in throwing situations and passing situations and running situations. Jared Goff was just a cerebral assassin out there, man, playing with his brain, throwing the right passes at the right time. Dan Campbell going forward on every fourth down and converting it from midfield on 4th and 3 on a pass to Amon. That was just beautiful football, man. What was your takeaway from that game?
Man, it was definitely a great game. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed watching it, from the sidelines, and it was it was a lot of high scoring game. You had 38 to 30. Got all the offense involved on both sides. I wish, Detroit would have used Jameson Williams a little bit more. They used him on the first drive, and that was it. But other than that, it was a great game. Glad to see Amon-Ra getting some big catches there. Mark Andrews resurgence, getting almost, I think, 25 to 27 fantasy points
He had
PPR.
29. That last
29,
touchdown
man.
in garbage time helped him.
Yeah, no, he definitely clutched up for some people. So shout out shout out to Mark Andrews. But I can't believe Derrick Henry keeps on messing up the team chemistry, going getting some fumbles every single game it seems like, and he's
He
playing
leads the
great.
league in fumbles.
Yep,
Three
it's not.
fumbles so far. He's had a fumble in every game.
He's worse than Ramondre Stevenson at fumbling.
I
That's
didn't
saying
know
a
that was
lot.
possible.
Me neither, bro. Like he's so elite, and then he fumbles. But honestly, this past game, I think that was more on Aiden Hutchinson. That was an amazing play. Stripping it out from Derrick Henry. But you got to just control the ball, hold on to the ball, because any turnover in a game like that could be, a nail in the coffin, and it kind of was in that game. So.
I mean, to me, I looked at that game as just a perfect football game by Detroit. I think up against Baltimore, in Baltimore, night game with the crowd pumping, that was just as good of a game plan and execution that Detroit could have pulled off. They had 224 rushing yards, 38 carries, 38 carries. They had two 90-plus yard drives against Baltimore on the road. That is demoralizing for a defense, right? You like the Baltimore Ravens placed the football at the 2 yard line at the end of the first quarter, and the Lamar Jackson did not touch the ball until almost the end of the second quarter. The Detroit Lions had a 11-minute drive in between the first and second quarter that started at the 2 yard line. That's how much they were running the football, chewing that clock. And then it would be a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. Jared Goff hits it to Laporta right down the middle of the field. That was just a clinic by Detroit on how to beat down a team as explosive as Lamar Jackson. Because you know the best way to beat Lamar? Put him on the sideline. Don't let him touch the field. Don't let him touch the ball. Do you know the best way to beat Derrick Henry is to limit his touches? Now, I get it, he had that fumble, but still, Derrick Henry is not a guy you want with the football. Lamar Jackson is not a guy you want with the football, and the Detroit Lions played the best defense you can play against the Ravens, which is not giving them the football. Now, let's talk about the defense as well. I think the Detroit Lions played a fantastic defensive game um, against Baltimore
Outside
as
of
well.
Terry and Arnold, he was getting cooked out there.
Oh, for sure. But even then, they held Lamar Jackson to 35 rushing yards on 7 carries, right? Lamar Jackson throwing the football, Lamar was special. Still, again, he was 21 for 27, 288 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, almost a perfect passer rating. But the way you beat Lamar is to make sure he does not beat you with his legs. And once again, the Detroit Lions did that. There was I didn't even see Lamar juke once, and the Detroit Lions did not try to tackle Lamar's feet the way Joey Bosa tried to do in Week 1 against Buffalo. They were trying to tackle his upper body, I guess. I think that's why like Lamar was a little flummoxed that he couldn't juke these guys out, and I think that was a perfect defensive game plan by Detroit, a perfect offensive game plan by Detroit, and you got to give shout out to Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell lost both of his coordinators. Ben Johnson was looked at as the mastermind behind the Detroit Lions offensive resurgence over the past couple of years. And so it turns out it's not actually Ben Johnson. It was Dan Campbell's playbook the whole time, right? We
That
saw those
playbook
trick play.
was magical this past game, man. It was a beauty to watch, and against Chicago as well. Like they know how to put some points on the board and do it in a variety of ways.
For sure. We saw the playbook come back. We saw the trickery that we thought was going to leave Detroit when Ben Johnson left. We saw those trickery come back. On the defensive side, Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator last year under Dan Campbell, he left Detroit to go to New York Jets, and it looked like maybe the defense was going to miss a beat after that Week 1 game against Jordan Love, but nah, the defense is right back, man. But having that type of performance against Lamar, I know he put up 30 points, but 6 of those points came in garbage time. That touchdown to Mark Andrews, although it helped a lot of Mark Andrews fantasy owners out there, that was a garbage time touchdown. You can't kind of say it was a 30 burger on the lines. That's as good of a defensive performance you can put up against Lamar. That's as good of a game that you can have for Detroit. Now on the Baltimore side, they're 1-2. They lost a heartbreaker in Buffalo, giving up 15 point lead in the fourth quarter. They've now lost against Detroit. They have Kansas City coming up next week. What do you make of the Ravens situation? Derrick Henry keeps on fumbling. Like, are they still the Super Bowl contender we thought they were coming into the year? Do you think they right the ship? What's your take on the Ravens?
Dude, I think they're gonna get it together. They got a talented enough roster. You got Lamar at the helm, and there's no way that they're just gonna flop. I think that they could easily beat the Chiefs. We'll talk about this later, but I think it's gonna be a pretty dominant win for them
Game
this
of the
week.
year, by the way. The battle of the 1 and 2s.
Yeah, man, we'll have to see what happens there, but yeah, no, I think Lamar is gonna take them to the playoffs again, and they're gonna have a good playoff journey this year. Hopefully, at least, I did take Lamar to win MVP, as I said in episode one. So I'm definitely thinking that Lamar is gonna turn it around. It's not like they've played bad in any of the games that they've been in. It's just end of the game, they're not able to figure it out and end up costing themselves the game. So that's more on Harbaugh, I think, than the team, the roster. But I think they'll figure it out. Nothing else to say really, but besides, it's going to take some time for them. But I got all the confidence in the world. They got enough talent.
For sure. The most important position in football is the quarterback position, and you can make an argument the Ravens have the best player at the best position to have the best player in. So the Ravens will be fine, but they are a weird football team over the years because every year the Ravens have one of the best rosters in all of football, but they can't seem to win the games that they're supposed to win. Now, put the game yesterday or on Monday aside, right? Maybe that was a bad performance by Baltimore. That was a great performance by Detroit. There was never a moment where you thought Baltimore was in control. They did have like a 14-point lead at one point, or they had a 7-point lead at one point in the third quarter in the second half. But at no point did you think they were in control. But the problem with Baltimore is they're not a guarantee for the gimme wins. Against Cleveland, for example, they were struggling for much of the game there, and then they pulled away in the end. Against Buffalo, we thought that game was won, right? Like they had a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter. That game is supposed to be over. They have no business making the game close. Forget about losing. So it's just a weird case in Baltimore that I don't really know what goes on there because the roster is amazing. They are as dominant of a team as you can have. When things are all rolling, there's no team that rolls like Baltimore. They will put up points and they will put it up in a hurry. But the problem with Baltimore is situationally, sometimes they just lose it. And I don't really know what goes on, but like you said, they have Lamar Jackson, they have John Harbaugh, and once you have the quarterback and the head coach, everything else falls in line. And on top of that, they have Derrick Henry, who I think will go down as the last great running back in NFL history, right? All the new great running backs are also pass catchers. You can't really make a name for yourself without being able to catch passes. Derrick Henry is kind of the last breed of running back who's considered a great running back without having the pass catching ability. All the new age great running backs, Saquon, Christian McCaffrey, Jameer Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, all these guys can catch passes out of the backfield. Derrick Henry, that's not part of his arsenal. So maybe that's what's hurting Baltimore, because when you have a guy like Henry fumbling, you can't really give him easy touches. At the end of the game, you gotta be able to control the ball. But you're right, Baltimore should be able to figure it out. Now let's move on to another elite matchup this past week: Rams Eagles. For a long time, it looked like the Eagles did not know what they were doing out there. It looked like they had forgotten how to play football, the defending Super Bowl champions, but they righted the ship. They figured it out. What'd you make of that game as an Eagles fan?
Look, man, last week I told you guys the Eagles gonna have to score 30 points to keep up with this Rams offense, and I was right. It wasn't the 30 points that I was expecting to come and how I expected it to come, but it happened. The first half was looking, very terrible. I'll be the first one to admit that. Matthew Stafford was dicing up the Eagles defense. Devontae Adams getting that touchdown to start the game off. I did think that was a push off that he had on Reed Blankenship, but I won't go too much further into that because there's bad calls on both sides. But yeah, for the Rams to be up 26-7 at one point in the game, you had Jalen Hurts looking very flat. Who was it? AJ Brown had zero catches at halftime. It was
I was
looking
shocked
pretty.
when he made a catch, dude. I forgot, like I'd forgotten the days when AJ Brown was a consistent receiver until this past Sunday.
Yeah, dude, he deserves the ball, and he showed that all the way into the end of the game. Getting that touchdown, kind of shifting the momentum after Goddard got the other touchdown. Man, it was
Jalen Hurts finally started throwing the football.
well, he sat Kevin Patullo down, and he was like, "Bro, let me call my own plays. Let me pass the ball. Like we got to get our receivers involved.
For sure. You got
You
to give
don't know
credit
what
where
you're
credit
talking about."
you got to give credit where credit is due, and Jalen Hurts, that man deserves some credit, because for the past couple weeks, you and I got on this podcast and got, at least me was talking about how Jalen Hurts is a tush push merchant. That's what he had turned into. But my respect for Jalen Hurts went through the roof after this past game, because at the end of the day, I think Jalen Hurts has had enough games in his belt where you can just say that guy's just a winner. He does what it takes to win. If what it takes for him to win is be a tush push merchant, he'll be a tush push merchant. If what it takes for him to win is throwing balls to Devontae Smith and AJ Brown throwing darts, he'll do that too, and he proved that. When his team is down double digits against LA Rams, by the way, that's a elite team of their end. Jalen Hurts, when he needed to throw the ball to beat the Rams, he was able to throw the ball and beat the Rams. Gotta give props to Jalen Hurts, man. That was a fantastic game by Hurts.
Yes, sir, man. It was great to see. We knew that AJ Brown was going to get involved at some point. You knew that Devontae Smith was going to get involved at some point. But man, the
I mean, in the
media.
passing game, it was those two guys. I mean, Goddard had that one catch, that one touchdown you were mentioning. Outside of that, the entire offense was AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Saquon Barkley had 46 rushing yards. Jalen Hurts had 40 rushing yards. He had a couple of nice runs. He had that 18-yard run in the game, but most of that offense, when it started to click, was Jalen Hurts throwing the ball to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. It was good to see those guys involved again. As a Devontae Smith fantasy owner in one of my leagues, I like seeing that the Eagles still remember how to throw the football, and it's not just tush push.
I mean, when you're paying guys 25 plus million a year, like, and they're alpha receivers, like, you got to give them the ball. And, you're only going to hurt your team if you're not doing so. So I think they got to get back to the basics, keep throwing the ball, keep running the ball. They're 18-0 in their past 18 games with Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, and Saquon Barkley all playing full games. So, I mean, I think that proves enough about you got to use those guys every single game.
And the Eagles showed a lot of Super Bowl pedigree here. And what's happening with the Eagles now is what happened with the Kansas City Chiefs last year, right? A Super Bowl champion, a team with a winning pedigree. Some way, somehow, you can blame it on CeeDee Lamb dropping the football in week one. You can blame it on Travis Kelce dropping the football in week two. You can blame it on Jordan Davis getting a lucky block in week three. But at the end of the day, great teams figure out how to win games they're not supposed to win. And Philadelphia, through 3 weeks this season, in all 3 weeks, you can make an argument they figured out a way to win the game, a game that they have no business winning. And that was a game that they had no business winning. In the first half, the Rams were dominating, and even in the second half, they went up 26-7 against Philadelphia, and Philadelphia musters up how many points is it? They mustered up 26 consecutive unanswered points against the Rams, and even after all that, Matthew Stafford drove down the field. Puka Nacua had a great game. The Rams are in position to win the game, and Jordan Davis comes up with the play of his life and blocks the field goal and takes it back for a touchdown. That is
Dude,
what Super Bowl champions do.
dude,
Great win for
that
Philly.
was amazing, and it just shows the resilience that the Eagles have. Like, most teams would have just lay down and quit when they're down 26-7 in the third quarter against a team like the Rams. But the Eagles, they knew that they had it in them. Jalen Hurts is the quarterback that I want in the future for the Philadelphia Eagles. But for any team, man, you would love to have Jalen Hurts because he is a winner, as you mentioned earlier. So that proved everything that I already knew, but the rest of the world needed to be reminded of, I guess. So go Birds.
For sure. Great win in Philly. Now let's move a little bit north along the northeast corridor to the Big Apple, man. New York City, the Giants.
Man,
There's a new quarterback in town.
the dude
What'd you
from
think about Jackson Dart being the quarterback? It looks like Russell Wilson has gone from week one, he was mid. Week two, he was 2015 Russ. Week three, he's back to being 2025 Russ.
yeah, Russ is unfortunately done, as an NC
Great
State,
career, though.
yes sir, as
Potential
an
Hall of
NC
Famer.
State
Let's give
alum.
credit to Russ before we get into Jackson Dart. Shout out Russell Wilson, man, one of the best in the business, one of the best quarterbacks of our football watching career, Atlas, right?
Yes
Since
sir.
we started understanding football and actually watching it as a fan, analyzing plays and whatnot, Russell Wilson has been at it since I can remember watching football, and he's been one of the best at it. It's always sad to see legends phase out like this. So I just want to give shout out to Russell Wilson, but let's talk about Jackson Dart.
Yeah, dude, shout out Russell Wilson. I remember watching him as a kid when he was at NC State, where I eventually went to school at. So, man, Russell Wilson is going to be sad to see
Legend in the
him.
game, legend in the game.
He'll probably bounce around the league if he wants to, but yeah, he's
I
already
don't know,
done.
dude. If you can't even win the Giants job, that's probably the that if you look at quarterback situations in the league right now, would you not say the Giants probably have the worst quarterback room in football? I mean, let's see what Dart turns into, but
I mean, I'd say Cleveland still is
I mean,
worse.
that's true. They do have Deshaun Watson. I forgot.
I didn't even think about him, bro, but just the old man, Joe Flacco, I gotta respect him, but
That's true. Maybe
yeah,
the only other team that has a
and the
worser
Saints
situation,
maybe.
but even yeah, that's true. I forgot about Tyler Shuck or whatever his name is. But
Spencer
yeah,
Rattler.
Spencer Rattler. Um, but yeah, I'm talking about New York. This is a tale you see way too much in the NFL, and I want to talk to viewers of why this happens in the NFL, right? Because I think all NFL fans understand, at least I do. I don't know what your take on this is, Atlas, is starting Jackson Dart this early is the wrong move. What do you think?
I agree. I think Dabble's kind of just grabbing at straws here. He knows he's 0
For
and
sure.
3. He knows he's
I mean,
got to get
Dable's on
some
the way out.
excitement. Yeah, I think he's on his way out, but I think he knows that he's got to do something different with the offense. They look very flat in most games, even against Dallas, like they were able to get some deep shots and stuff, but for the most part they weren't popping on offense other than those deep balls. And I didn't think that there was much, excitement with their offense, and that's what Jackson Dart's going to bring. So I understand the decision, but like you said, I think it's a little bit premature.
Dude, outside of your rare cases, such as Peyton Manning, for example, right? Joe Burrow, Cam Newton, Andrew Luck, outside of these rare cases of guys that start right away and work out, a lot of the great quarterbacks don't start right away.
Russell
Patrick
Wilson's a
Mahomes.
good one too.
Oh, Russell Wilson. That's
Yeah.
true. He started right away, and started cooking. But a lot of the great quarterbacks, especially in today's day and age, they sit, and they sit for at least a year. Patrick Mahomes famously sat behind Alex Smith for a year, right? Jordan Love now, who's cooking in Green Bay, he sat for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers, who sat for 3 years behind Brett Favre. You look at Lamar Jackson. He wasn't a day one starter. He sat behind Joe Flacco for 10 games and then started in Baltimore. And all these great quarterbacks, that in the league. Jared Goff on Monday night. He didn't start instantly in
Jalen
his rookie
Hurts.
year, even though he was the number one overall pick that year. Jalen Hurts didn't start instantly. That was Carson Wentz's team initially, right? It's been proven that more times than not, you need to sit your young quarterbacks. The NFL, the hardest position to play in all of sports is quarterback of an NFL team. You have to understand the protections, you have to understand the routes, you have to manage communication with the coaches, you have to be able to read defenses and audible, you have to put the running back in the right position. And that's all pre-snap. After the ball gets snapped, you have to be able to make the right reads. You have to pull it right when you see the lane. There's so much decision making and just analysis of the game that you have to make in real time at the quarterback position. It's been proven throughout history that you want to sit these guys, and the game is more complex now than it has ever been, right? You have all the motions, the pre-snap reads, the RPOs. Everything in football is a decision the quarterback makes now, and it is a complex decision. That's why in the league right now, all the great teams, what do they all have? A great quarterback, right? Kansas City, they got Mahomes. The Chargers, who's 3-0, they have Herbert. You can say whatever you want about Hurts, but Hurts is a great quarterback at this point. Josh Allen in Buffalo, Lamar, these guys all sat too. I mean, outside of Herbert, he was supposed to sit behind Tyrod Taylor, but the famous injection to Tyrod Taylor um, happened in LA, and Justin Herbert had to start instantly. But still, it's been proven that especially late first round picks should not be starting this early. I think this is this is as obvious of a panic move for a head coach and general manager that are on their way out as I've ever seen in the NFL. Brian Daboll is of course getting fired up at the end of the year. He's had his chance, and every head coach gets one quarterback chance. And if you make a bad decision there, you're cooked. The Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel was getting all the praise. He signed Tua Tagovailoa. The moment he signed Tua Tagovailoa, his career was done there. Same thing in New York. Brian Daboll was the one who signed Daniel Jones to that long-term extension. Now, Daniel Jones is cooking in Indy, but that's a separate story. Um, and that sealed his fate because you just cannot buy enough time to do what's right for your franchise. Every coach and every general manager has a 3-year window that they are hired to do. They have to prove that they are a winning coach within the 3 years. Brian Daboll, his first year in New York, cooked. He had 11 wins. Since then, he hasn't done anything. He's on his way out, and this is a panic move. I feel bad for Jaxson Dart. He's being put in a position to fail. I think the better move, if the New York Giants wanted to do what's best for their organization and not what's best for Brian Daboll, Jaxson Dart would not be starting. Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston. Is Jameis still in New York?
Yeah, dude, he's still in New York, but
Go to Jameis.
dude,
Why?
if I had to say something, man, just real quick, I would say like, why did they even sign Russell Wilson? They're paying him like $20 million a year, like for this year, and when they could have just kept Jameis, had him start for a few games, and then if you're gonna do the same thing, it would have been the same exact scenario. You'd be 0-3, and you want to start Dart in week 4. Instead, you make Russell Wilson the scapegoat, which I agree he's not good at this point in his career, but no one told you to sign him to $20 million when you could easily have gotten another receiver for Dart or another defensive player or offensive lineman help that's going to help out the team long term. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me, and that just shows how cooked their organization is. And I wish the best for Dart. I love them at Ole Miss, and I'll still continue to root for him with the Giants.
For sure. I mean, as a Panthers fan, right? I can talk about Bryce Young as the perfect example as well. Like Bryce Young did not look good initially. Bryce Young looked like a bust. Through that first rookie season and that first 2 games of his second year, it looked like Bryce Young might be the worst number one overall pick ever. And then he sat behind Andy Dalton for a few games, got composed. Dave Canales did some trickery, and Bryce Young started cooking by the end of the year. And he proved himself. He bought himself one more year. Let's see what Bryce does this year. He didn't look good in that first game. He picked it up in the second half of that Cardinals game, and now he looked good against Atlanta, right? In that blowout win this past week. CJ Stroud, when he first in his rookie year, he was doing good, right? The O line was protecting better. He had a nice set of receivers. He had Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. He had Nico Collins. Obviously, he had a good set of receivers. And then now his receivers aren't as good. The offensive line isn't protecting, and CJ Stroud looks worse than Bryce Young. Right? That wasn't even a debate after their rookie year. Everyone thought the Carolina Panthers made a horrendous decision by taking Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. Now it's looking like they made the right choice. And and I'm not saying whether they made the right choice or not. I'm just saying so much of a young quarterback and the analysis of a young quarterback and the evaluation of a young quarterback is dependent on their situation, and the Giants are just not doing what's best for them. And Brian Daboll is doing what's best for him. Now let's move on to games this week, Atlas. We've got two big, huge bangers. Let's first talk about the showdown in Dallas. Micah Parsons is going back to Dallas. It's Cowboys versus the Packers. What do you think about this game?
Well, man, this game is gonna prove for Cowboys fans why you paid Dak Prescott $60 million a year, right? You know, because he doesn't have CeeDee Lamb, so he's got to do it all by himself with George Pickens, Tolbert, and those guys. You know, so Jake Ferguson may be getting the
Shout
ball a
out
little bit
UNC
more.
legend Javante Williams.
Yeah, man, he's been playing really good. I see you got him starting in your lineup this week,
For
so
sure.
Javante to the future, I guess. But man, I'm thinking it's going to be a dominant performance from Green Bay again. I think last week was terrible for them, and they're really going to have something in store for Dallas coming up this week. But on the other hand, you got Dallas who just got smacked. It wasn't really as close as it looked. The game against
Chicago.
Chicago, yeah, you had 4 touchdowns from Caleb Williams. Everybody in Chicago got free hot dogs because of that. So I know they're excited, but
I
yeah,
mean, the Cowboys defense just hot ass. I mean, that's just
Cowboys
all it
defense,
is.
man, they are
Russell Wilson
garbage.
cooked the Cowboys, looked like 2015 Russ again. 1 week later, got benched.
Yeah,
You know
because
what I mean?
you can't gauge the performance off of what you did against the Cowboys. That's why we're not going to go too
Oh,
much into
Caleb
depth.
Williams is looking like, the worst quarterback of his draft class up until week 2. He plays the Cowboys, and people are talking about Caleb Williams being a future Hall of Famer in Chicago now.
Dude, if I have anybody playing against the Cowboys, they're going to be starting in my lineup every single fantasy league, regardless of who they are and how deep on the bench they usually are. But yeah, I think Micah
But
Parsons is going to come get some sacks, and it's going to
this is going to
be
be an emotional game for both teams, obviously, right? The Cowboys lost a player of Micah Parsons' caliber. Micah Parsons is going to um, you know, his former team. It's going to be an emotional game. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be as big of a blowout as people are expecting. I do expect Green Bay to pull it out. I just don't think Dallas has any personnel on defense to compete with Green Bay, and they don't have the personnel on the offensive side either with CeeDee Lamb getting injured. It's just Green Bay is just out, or Dallas is just outmatched, overpowered by Green Bay. I do think Dak will keep it close, but I give me Green Bay in this game. Now let's talk about the game of the week: Ravens, Chiefs, battle of the 1 and 2s, battle of arguably the two of the three best quarterbacks in the league. Both of them are playing for their season. Basically, you don't want to go 1 and 3 this early. What do you think of this game?
Man, I think it's as I mentioned earlier, I think the Ravens are going to pull this one out. I think, just talent wise, it's not really close right now in this stage of the season. For the Chiefs, man, their running back is terrible. I love Pacheco, but he got washed pretty early in his career. You got Kareem Hunt kind of taking over that backfield, which is kind of sad to see. But you got Tyquan Thornton as your receiver one, de facto receiver one right now. So it's not really that pretty for Kansas City on offense. Obviously, you still have Mahomes, you still have Kelsey, the shell of himself, Kelsey right now. And then on defense, you still got a really talented secondary and some good pieces otherwise. But, I think Lamar is going to cook that defense. Like, I think, these games the past few weeks have been way too close, and Lamar is going to have to, give his MVP case in this game. I think he's got a long way to go to get back that MVP, starting out 1 and 2. But, here's the
I'm
redemption
if he
arc
can catch up
right
to
now.
Daniel Jones, man.
Man, I don't know if he can catch up to Baker, man.
Oh, Baker, Bake
Yeah,
Show. Hey,
Bake Show
Statline
MVP.
podcast called it first. Baker Mayfield's gonna win MVP this year, and you heard it here first. You heard it before the season started on this podcast that Baker
Yeah,
Mayfield is coming for that MVP trophy. 3 games. I mean, I'll come back to the Ravens topic real quick, but to talk about Baker, 3 games, 3 game winning drives. That's what I'm talking about, Bake Show. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah. Baker. We're gonna see what he's about to do without Mike Evans, his All-Pro receiver. So Chris
But
Godwin should
Godwin
be
should be
coming
back
back.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I'm excited about that. But I do think the Ravens are going to win this game. I think it'll be closer than expected. At least I expected it to be a high scoring, far differential point wise game. I think, but it's
I actually
always going
don't.
to be close.
I think Ravens will pull this out in a closer game, but if you were to ask me what team's in a better position, I actually think the Chiefs are in a better position than the Ravens because the problem with the Ravens is their defense. And if you like right now, if you look at the two teams, right, what is the two teams' problem? Baltimore's problem is their defense. Kansas City's problem is their offense. Both of these have great quarterbacks, all-time great quarterbacks. But Kansas City is getting Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy back. What is Baltimore doing? Right? Like, what the
Isaiah
likelihood
Likely, that's about it.
but the likelihood that the Chiefs fix their offense is much greater than the likelihood of the Ravens fixing their defense. Now, of course, Lamar's going to carry Baltimore to wins. I don't expect Baltimore to fall out of the playoffs, and I actually expect Baltimore to win this game because Mahomes doesn't have Xavier Worthy or Rashee Rice. I don't think the Chiefs can just put up the amount of points that you need to put up to beat Baltimore. But I do worry about the Baltimore Ravens defense against some of the greater offenses in this league. The Chiefs offense just is not at that level, so I like Baltimore in this game. But for the overall season, I think the Chiefs are in a better position than Baltimore. But Baltimore is in an easier division with Joe Burrow being injured. The Kansas City Chiefs are in a division with Justin Herbert. So, given the team situation, I like the Chiefs to perform better by the end of the year, but they're in a tougher division. They still have to play the Chargers again. They still have to play the Broncos twice. I, yeah, I think both teams will be fine by the end of the year. Chiefs offense is going to get better. Lamar's going to carry Baltimore, but I like Baltimore in this one. Let's quickly cover the Thursday night game: Seattle versus Arizona. Hopefully, no Call of Duty games are coming out. If there's no Call of Duty games, we should see a good game out of Kyler Murray. Well, who do you like in this game?
I mean, man, I'd say Kyler Murray, he's been playing relatively good, but like Marvin Harrison, what are you doing? You're supposed to be Maserati Marv. You're looking like Mazda Marv out there. I mean, it's
Mazda Marv.
yeah, but
That's a cook. That's a cook.
he's looking trash, man. He was looking up straight in the air when the ball was coming like in his hands, trying to catch it with his chest. Like you're supposed to be, you are the son of an NFL legend at receiver. You're supposed to be a generational talent at receiver. You're supposed to be better than Neighbors and those other players that were drafted in that same class. But you're looking like one of the worst ones. You got 4 or 5 other receivers in that class that are doing better than you right now. Um, but not to speak on Marvin Harrison too much. The Arizona Cardinals also just lost James Conner, who's a huge part of their offense, was a security blanket for Kyler Murray. Always used to make one-handed catches out of the backfield, saving Kyler Murray from terrible passes that would have been incomplete or fourth downs otherwise. And so we got to see what Trey Benson's going to do as the RB1 now in Arizona. So I think there's a lot more questions in Arizona right now because Seattle's kind of cooking right now. They got a great offense. Kenneth Walker,
Darnold.
JSN, yeah, Darnold, Torrey, Torrey Horton. Sorry, I messed
Yeah.
it up, but or Torrey Taylor. I don't even know, but he's the rookie on Seattle that's been popping off. But
I mean, to talk about your Marvin Harrison point, going into last year, going into Marvin Harrison's rookie year, who would have thought that Jackson Smith and Jigba was the better guy, right? And right now, it's not even a comparison. JSN might be a top 5 receiver in football right now, over the first 3 weeks of football, and Marvin Harrison Jr. had just forgotten to play. I think to touch on it a little bit, Marvin Harrison Jr. We need to forget about him being a top tier receiver anymore. Coming into the league, we thought by year 2, year 3, he was going to find himself in that, the elite receiver conversation. And he's just not there right now. We thought he was going to be up there with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nakua, those guys. He's more on like the Khalil Shakir type of guys. You
No,
know, like
he's not on like the Garrett Wilson, JSN,
he's
Emeka
not even at the
Egbuka.
JSN tier. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's not on that OSU tier. He's on the Chris Olave tier. He's on like even worse
I don't
than
know, dude.
that.
I think I like Olave more than Harrison so far.
I don't know, man. Olave can get 5 targets or 50 targets, and he'll still get 50 yards max. So I mean,
Uh,
I love
but Olave
Olave,
didn't
but
have the hype that Marvin Harrison had. When Marvin Harrison was coming in, we were billed as Marvin Harrison was billed as the greatest receiving prospect to coming out of college into the NFL potentially. That is the type of respect that Marvin Harrison was getting coming out of college, right? That's the type of hype Jeremiah Smith's getting right now in Ohio State. Wide receiver you from LSU now. Like, let's see what happens, but he's just not living up to it. And it's almost like he's forgotten how to play football. Those drops against San Francisco was just crazy. And with that being said, though, San Francisco's lost Nick Bosa. They've won a couple of close games here. I think their luck is out. I like I think Arizona's gonna figure this one out.
yeah. I mean, honestly, last week, like the game against San Francisco for Arizona, like they got a safety with like 2 or 3 minutes left in the game, and it was like they got a 2 point lead, and then they somehow choked the game away. Like they weren't able to get a first down, were able to had to punt it away, and then lost the game. Like
For sure.
Arizona is
They
not that
punted
good of a
the.
team.
I mean, I think that was a bad decision by Jonathan Gannon at the end. They punted on like a 4th and 5 from the 45-yard line, and the ball hit or I think it was from the 45 or 50-yard line. The ball
Mhm.
hit the end zone, and it was a net movement of 30 yards. Right at that point, you should have gone for it. Um, Either way, it's going to be a great game. Seattle had a blowout win against New Orleans. I think they're going to come back to earth. They're still on the high. It's a short week, divisional game. You can never figure it out with these types of games, right? Last week we saw Miami. We thought they were, pretty much a dead team. They put up a pretty good fight against Buffalo, the juggernaut. So these divisional games on a short week are always going to be something. I actually do like Arizona in an upset. Like I said, I think they got a little unlucky in their game last week. I think the luck reverses here. I think Seattle got a little lucky in their game against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago when the guy forgot how to play football and forgot the rules in the end zone when they gave Seattle a free 7 points. That turned the tide for Seattle there. Seattle also got a little unlucky in San Francisco. They've been in a couple of close games. I expect this to be a close game, and I like Arizona in this one.
I'm gonna take Seattle, but I agree it's gonna be a close game. Could go either way. But the Arizona's unveiling their new jersey, that grayish one with the pebble looking things on it. So we'll see how they play in them. But yeah, man, it's
Yeah,
gonna be a
well,
decent game.
thank you everyone for joining. I think that'll end our fourth week of the Statline podcast. Can't wait for the games this week, and we'll see you guys right back here next week. See, peace.
Peace. Thank you guys.